All right. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I'd like to add a couple things to my resume. I'm also a mom, and I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old at home. That is so much a part of me, and also we'll talk about that in a little while. So in my shoes, how did we get started was the first thing. Well, let me take a step back in case you haven't heard about what we do. You gave a little bit of information, so we'll start with that. So we provide housing and support for women who are pregnant and homeless um, through our core values of dignity, humility, and grit. My story got started um, several years ago. Um, Really, ultimately, if we want to go way back, I studied social work in school. And I decided on that because I had learned that 70% of women choose abortion because of financial reasons. And that started my trajectory on um, becoming a social worker and trying to learn more about the complex issues that people are facing when they're faced with that that decision. So I grew up in a pro-life household, and it was always something that was very important to me. After I graduated with my master's in social work, I landed in a maternity home in Phoenix, Arizona. It's called Maggie's Place, and I worked and lived in the home for 2 years. So that was where I didn't really know anything about maternity homes before that. It wasn't a part of my life growing up. Um, but it was an opportunity to put both of these values, pro-life values, and my skills as a social worker into practice. And through that process, I saw how simply women who have no support, having support during the time of their pregnancy and after, can transform their lives. And through that process, it transformed my own life. Um, Sorry. I never imagined in a million years that I was going to end up starting a maternity home. But about a year after I'd finished my commitment in Phoenix, a few girls, we were at a wedding together in California, actually, and a few of us that had all worked together in Phoenix at the same time. One girl said, "Hey guys, let's move to Dallas and start a maternity home." And so that's what we did. um, I was living in DC at the time. There were a couple other girls living in Denver, one also DC. We were all spread out. So there were 4 of us that ended up moving to the Dallas area. So that was 13 years ago that we made that decision. Now I'm dating myself when I say that. Um, it's also my birthday, so I moved here when I was, 15 or something like that. So anyway, we are, started the process here. I didn't know anybody in Dallas. And I just talked about it constantly, talked about it for 4 years. And finally, there were a few key people that I met. One was a man who sits on the board of the advisory council of the sisters that own the property that we're on. And he said, "Hey, I think I have a property for you." And in the back of my head, I said, "I'm sure you do." But I really didn't think that it was anything. Thankfully, a friend of mine kept in touch with this man, and 2 weeks later, he messaged me and said, "Maria, I think there really is something here." So that's how we came to the property that we're on. It is an old convent building. It was laid out quite perfectly for what we're trying to do. Other things, not only laid out, but the location, on a bus line close to social service agencies, and just quite perfect location for us. So this was 2016. We became an organization, had a couple other people who said, "I want to join your board. We're going to get this started." And so in the fall of 2017, September, was when we opened our doors first for our first women. So bringing that to now, we have housed 105 women. And, over the last 7.5 years, it's been so in addition to what we provide, very simply, is housing and support. But what does support look like? Um, put our mom at the center, and we give her a supportive team. And those people include an advocate, which is someone who lives in the home and walks alongside her very intentionally through the time that she's living with us. We have a case manager who works with the mom to set up her goals and to help her with resources specifically for those goals. And we have an LPC counselor who does weekly individual therapy and group counseling for the moms. And so, in addition to that, we have volunteers, and we have that come in and help support the moms. We provide 2 to 3 classes a week for the moms around life skills, parenting, financial literacy. It can be a myriad of different things, but all focused on how can we help restore her, restore and prepare her to who God created her to be. And so we have a lot of program partners that come in and provide those classes. We also do other things like house outings and take the moms to museums or just different things that they get to experience and take their young children to. Our program is for women who are 18 and older, and they have to be pregnant, obviously. They are, and we just have a couple of other small criteria. They can't be fleeing domestic violence. We're not a DV shelter, although unfortunately abuse and trauma is much of our moms' stories in their history. We also only accept women in their current pregnancy, so we don't have women come in who have other children in their care. However, about 70% of our moms, it's not their first time pregnancy. So they have had other children that at the time they come to us are not in their care for a variety of reasons. So therefore, because of that, we have a lot of our moms set a goal to be reunified with their children and with their older children. And we have seen some success stories with that after they've left In My Shoes. So in the time that they're there with us, they, participate in the structured programming that we have. They can stay initially until until the baby is 9 months old, at which point we do evaluate and see if they have found their next step housing or if they need some more assistance. We do offer extensions based on that need and different moms' situations. So some moms just have certain barriers. They might have a record that prevents them from finding safe, affordable housing. They might still just be saving money in order to find affordable housing. Several different things. We know that safe, affordable housing is lacking in this city. So one of the things that we did last year is we converted 2 of our bedrooms into studio apartments. That was, I don't remember, we met Paul first and then Mark. So Mark was incredibly influential with that renovation last year. And so the purpose of that is that the moms who come in our program who need just a little bit more time, need a little bit more transition until they can find their more permanent housing, they can apply to live in the apartment that we have. It's small, it's an efficiency, but it suits the needs for them to continue to work on their goals, have a little bit more independence in that transition time as they're going to move on from the community after that. I think we might open up for questions now, and then what else do you all want to know? Yeah.
This is great, by the way, hearing all this. The counseling, I guess this is because they frequently came from abusive relationships. Is that the counseling that you provide?
Yes. So the moms are homeless for a variety of reasons, but we see two common denominators, which is past trauma and um, lack of healthy social relationships. So when we're looking at our setup, our LPC counselor and our case manager, who's a social worker, they're really looking at things from the trauma standpoint. While we are trauma informed with our advocates as well who live in the home, they're acting a little bit more like family and are helping model what does healthy relationship look like and how can the moms then instill that in their life beyond In My Shoes. So we are very intentional about looking at those two things.
And at any point in time, about 15 women can be sheltered there?
Yes. So we have 13 beds for the community living and then 2 apartments. Mhm.
Is it full right now or how?
No, we have eight moms right now and 5 babies. So we're in the process of doing some intakes. We also have 2 sets of twins that are due in July. They're like due right around the same time. So we anticipate it, even though it's like 13 beds for moms, we're going to have more beds for babies than moms at some point. There was one other time we had 10 babies and 9 moms in the house. So it was quite a full house. Yeah. Yes.
How are you funded?
Great question. So we're completely privately funded. We are about 60% individual gifts, whether that's recurring or one-time gifts, about 20% grants, private grants. Some of the grants that have supported us over the years are Council for Life, Catholic Foundation, and a few others. And then some businesses, and then our event that we do once a year. So we do a trivia night event in the spring, well, winter, I guess, early spring every year, and it's a lot of fun. We have a good time. Has anybody ever been to trivia night here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Trivia night was great.
Yeah.
It's the first time I went. Paul did this, and it was a great event.
Yeah.
We were about 40th place. We got up there. But all the questions are like for the new kids. No, it's not trivia. This is like current events. But, no, it was great, and I was really impressed at that event because you had one of the first women that had gone through a successful transition. Yeah, and she told her story.
Yes. Yes.
And that was very powerful.
Yeah.
So maybe you could touch on how many have kind of have gone through the whole process, roughly.
Yeah. So we've had 105 moms. So take away 8 that are currently in the home, right? So yeah, every story is different. But for our event, we usually try to get an alumni mom to speak, and it's really because I work with them personally on their talk, and 2 things that always stick out to me. One is their courage to even get up and tell a room full of 400 strangers about their lives and their story. The other thing is just like the things that impact them at In My Shoes, and one of them being, we're a faith-based organization. We don't require the moms to participate in anything, but we have opportunities for them for Bible study or prayer time or retreats throughout the year. And without a doubt, unprompted, they say how their relationship with the Lord grew during their time at In My Shoes. And I never specifically asked that question, and it just always ends up in their testimony. It's really awesome. Yeah.
How do they most often connect with the organization?
Yeah. So interestingly, 50% of our moms find us through a Google search. And which I think is really inspiring, because there's moms and women who on their own accord are wanting help. They're needing help and they're looking for it. We also have several program partners who will refer to us. We have probably about 25% come from different other social service agencies, pregnancy resource centers, rehab, um, uh, Catholic Charities or other homeless shelters, things like that.
Do all the moms choose to keep their babies, or do some give them up for adoption?
Yeah. So yes, and we would refer them if there is an interest there to most likely Catholic Charities.
Yes.
You said 18 was the entry point age-wise?
Yes.
And what about younger?
Yeah, so in any aspect, if there's a mom that doesn't fit our criteria, then we will refer them to other programs in the area. There are a couple that will house minors. And other situations like moms that have kids, that kind of thing. So we do look and have a resource list for women and moms that don't meet our specific criteria. There certainly is a need for both, but I think one of the things that's interesting, most people find interesting, is our average age is actually around 28, and that number seems to be getting higher. So
the average.
Mom's given chores, and how is food provided for them?
Yes. So our program is no cost to the moms. However, we do have rules and what we call community considerations and contributions. So the moms participate in chores daily to keep the home clean, and everybody, and our live-in staff as well. As a community, keeping the home clean. We also do service Saturday every third Saturday of the month, rain or shine, Holy Saturday or not was the last one. But we have community members, volunteers that come in and work alongside with our moms and our staff to do a deep clean of the home. So moms are expected to participate in that. There's a few other requirements there. But really, it's just like, how can they contribute to their own home? And it's so funny because after our moms who have been there for a while take ownership, and they will lead a group of volunteers because they know how that kitchen, they want that kitchen clean. They know how to do it. And so, yeah, they take a lot of ownership in that. What was the second part?
How are meals provided?
Meals. So we have a combination of two things. So we get donations of food, whether it's pantry items or we do an ongoing meal train, Meals for Moms, and people can donate and bring a prepared meal anytime. The moms are also able to have their own food, and we have space for them to do that. So they're usually eligible for WIC and food stamps, and we want them to have those things. We want them to acquire those things while they're with us so that they have them when they leave. So it also just helps supplement the food that we have. We have a small grocery budget as well to make sure that we have fresh produce and all that. We do a group meal once a week, community night dinner, where a couple of residents, moms and staff alike, will cook for everybody. It helps the moms teach them how to cook for a large group of people. And they also and then they have a house meeting, that kind of thing. Other than that, everybody is on their own to prepare their meals, which is intentional. We, in a similar vein, want the moms to learn how to cook for themselves. And this story always will stick with me. One of our moms once said, so she had been living in hotels to hotel before she found In My Shoes. And she was like, for years, I've only cooked in a microwave, and I forgot. She was like, I grew up learning how to cook, but I forgot. And so that opportunity and having the kitchen for her and having her own food to be able to learn how to cook. Also, organically, the moms will just cook for each other, and they'll say, I've got this and you've got this, and let's make a meal. And they organically have community night dinners.
I need to go through that program.
I have learned so much about cooking from living in community with these women now and previously in Phoenix. It's so interesting. I'm from the Midwest. We're not really that exciting when it comes to cooking. So, yeah.
Do any of the women have jobs?
Yes. So when they arrive, one of the other requirements is that they have 40 hours of productivity a week, and we have different things that constitute productivity. Some of those things include like the classes that we have and counseling, that kind of thing. But in order to really reach that, they usually are picking one track, that either going back to school and furthering their education or working towards getting a job. And so while they might not get a job day one, those are their goals when when they're at the home. So also, although our community living is free of cost, we do charge small rent for the studio apartment. So we have to see that they've been working on those goals. And really, again, just trying to mimic what they're going to experience out in the real world.
So then you you need babysitters, and right, particularly after the baby is born.
Yeah. It's complex, right? So we don't provide childcare. Now we do have babysitters, volunteers who are babysitters that can come, and the mom will contact them, and they can come for a one-off thing. They have an interview, or they have a court date or something like that. But for childcare, consistent childcare, we don't provide that. We ask them to find that themselves. And so there is a program that we partner with in downtown. It's called Vocal Alcove. They provide free childcare for any family that's in a shelter or transitional housing. And so we're one of their partners. And then they also have, through state subsidy, there's also some other opportunities for the moms to get childcare. Again, one of the things is empowering them so that they have that set up for when they leave. And yeah, there's a lot of requirements for childcare too.
Do you guys provide any transportation for them? Do they have to use the bus, or what? How do they?
Yeah, so we provide bus passes. They can get a bus pass every day if they need it. We also do a small Lyft budget every month for emergencies. And then they can do ride requests as well for different things from our staff. So our staff can take them. Sometimes that's limited based on staffing and how many, all those needs. They also, just as a side note, Medicaid, if you're on Medicaid, they have taxi service for doctor's appointments specifically. So we also refer them to those services for their medical appointments.
Yeah, impressive list of accomplishments. What do you see in the future, near term and maybe a little longer term?
Yeah. So as a couple of things. One is that I mentioned earlier that I have 2 young kids. So I have actually made the decision to step down as executive director. And we're currently in the process of searching for the next ED. I am still staying on in some capacity as founder. But throughout this summer, we are looking for my successor. The personal decision there is that I can spend more time with my own kids while they're young. But that's not going to deter us from our goals and what we're looking forward in the future. So we have our property on site, and we are also looking for a second property. The need is great. We also, the need is great, and also will give us a little bit more stability with a second property. So we have a committee with our board and our staff that's working towards that goal. we're at the very, very early stages. But if anybody does have any resources in regards to property or experience in that area, I'd love to talk with you about that. We very Holy Spirit led found our property that we're at right now. And I believe that that's probably what's going to help us with the next one too. Um, yeah, so those are kind of the two endeavors right now.
Are you trying to be in a different part of town, or you just need more, you want to just have more available space?
Yeah, more available space. It doesn't necessarily need to be a different part of town. We are looking in the area that we're in. We're thinking Central South Dallas or potentially a little west of us. So like either Grand Prairie or Irving area would be ideal.
And any talk of, because there's property behind that building, right? Is there any talk of building on that property?
Yes. If we were able to purchase the land, then we would consider building on that property.
I see now, is it, right?
Yes.
Your candidates have to be at legal status here.
So the short answer is no. We don't. Well, for one, we don't background check our women when they come in, and for two, we don't require that they have to have an ID. If someone doesn't have all their documentation, then we would work with them on that while they're with us. Yeah.
So they have their own doctor when they come to you, or you help them find medical care, or?
So both happen. We have had women. So if a woman has not had prenatal care at the time that she comes to us, and unfortunately that happens too frequently, that they are far along in their pregnancy and have not received any prenatal care, then that will be one of our first matters of business with them, and getting them set up. A lot of times, or some of the time, the moms are set up with prenatal care already. Because of the mom situation, and a lot of our moms are considered high-risk pregnancies, the majority of them do go to Parkland Wish Clinic, because frankly, they would not be accepted in some other. But if they do have some options, then we're close to Methodist. We would, I don't know. The moms ultimately have their choice of where they want to go, and we'll support them in whichever hospital they choose, or OB that they choose that goes to the hospital. One of the things that's really important to us and why we have the advocates that live in is that we will always offer to be at the birth with a mom if she doesn't have anybody else with her. So sometimes there's a support person that she chooses, but there are often times where it's our staff and our live-in staff that will be with her during that, so she's not alone.